Blogtalk Radio.
Hey, this is Marilynn Hughes from the Out of Body Travel Foundation, and we have a great treat for you today. We're going to be talking to Magdalena Nagasaki, who helps me run our forums. She's one of our administrators, and she has been a great friend of mine now for about 10 years, maybe longer. And we're going to talk about how we met and how Mari found her way to the Out of Body Travel Foundation and her journey going from pretty much atheism to becoming really quite a profound mystic. So, Mari, welcome to the show.
Hi, Marilynn.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on. So, why don't you start at the beginning? So, tell us about what you were doing when you started to come across the idea of out-of-body travel, and how did you find your way to all of this?
Yes. So, let me start with how I found you.
Okay.
Let's begin with, so I started having these experiences going out of body quite often, and then having these other encounter with the other spirits, and then it becomes very often. And one of the major experience that I had was when I was taken into the other realms. I remember there were beds next to each other's, and then I was laying down on the lap of this lady who had a brown, black hair, long hair, and then she was operating on my seventh chakra on the top of the head, and I remember that she was, I literally remember how I felt, pressure and the sound. She was putting something on my open chakra, and then she was operating me, and as soon as she's done, she closed it quickly, and then she said, "Done, you can go now," and I was sent back to my physical body. That was the one-day major experience that I had, and as I experienced more out-of-body experience after that, then this lady came back and started directing me with the other directions. One of them was, she told me one time that stop doing this because I'm not ready. She also told me that I need to study, and she gave me the name of the book. And then I tried to remember, but I wasn't able to bring it back with me in a physical realm. But next day, as soon as I woke up, I opened my computer, and I was just surfing the net. Then the book just showed up nowhere. It's literally from nowhere. It just popped up, and that was your book, The Mystery of the Redemption. So when I had that book, I don't know why, but I instinctively knew that this was the book that I was to read. So it was, and then also it was free downloadable. So I just clicked the button, and I downloaded it, and I start reading it, and it was 600 pages or so. And I didn't know anything about that time because I had no religious background, or I was practicing any kind of religion, so I didn't know what the book was going to be about. But as I started reading, physically, this happened really literally when I was reading. My seventh chakra was hurting so much one point that I had to even close the book that I was reading, and I had to take a break. So that was very much sign for me that this was the right book to read, that lady told me to read. So I kept going and going, and throughout the books, getting to know about Jesus Christ as well, because that was a big part of the books. And then I cry and cry as I read it, and then I cry so much. And then what happened is after that, I read it through, which I never read this through for 600-some pages in my life. But that time I was able to do that. And as I finished, I saw your email address. So I thought, well, this is maybe this is the chance. So I since I was lost in some way that time, I didn't know which way to go because all these weird experiences happening to me, and then I wasn't sure what to do. So I emailed you, and at the same time, I emailed this man who was very famous for teaching out-of-body travel. But next day, I got email back from you saying that you knew me, and that was the beginning. My journey started.
Yeah, and I remember at the time that I had been having visions myself of someone named Mari that was going to come across my path, and so I had been waiting to see who this person might be, and of course it was you. You know, one question I'd like to ask you before we go forward is, what led to you actually starting to have the experiences? What was going on in your life, and how did that come about?
Well, I don't really. I had all these kind of weird experience encounter with some other entities, but actually when I started to having a very often. Well, I was told by you, stop doing that because I'm not ready. So I listened to your direction and I stopped doing my practicing my out-of-body travel. But after I read that book, that's the time constantly I started to having that experience.
Okay.
Almost constantly, every single day I was taken out to the places.
So, and what happened next?
So the next, I started to have an interest in, of course, about Christianity, which I had no knowledge of. Really, I really didn't have no background of it.
Well,
but
you came from Japan, right?
Yes.
And you had shared with me that in Japan, religion, it just isn't a big thing.
No, not really. We don't really practice it more so nowadays. It's more New Ages, But I wasn't practicing any sorts of these religious things. Though my family background was Buddhism, but none of my parents practiced it. None of my grandmother, I would believe, they weren't just into it. So I had nobody to teach me back then. So it was your book that really triggered me to learn about Christianity. It really started that point on.
Okay. Yeah, and so then, since that time, because that was about 10 years ago, and I
think more than 10 years ago.
It probably was, wasn't it?
It's been probably 13 or 14.
Okay, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
what happened then as you progressed from there?
Yes, so I started to having another experience who the person guided me to the specific church. So I started to go into church, and then I didn't know nothing about it, but I started it anyway. I just learned over the years that even when I have those experiences, to trust their direction, trust their teachings. So I follow her, and then as I was told, I found the church to the exact spot. So I went to that church, start attending the mass, learning how to attend the mass, things, Google it, and then that's my starting point. I was introduced to the church, and
I remember there was a particular moment when we had both talked about that it was time for you to become Catholic. Do you remember what happened then?
Yes, that was the time I was baptized Protestant back then.
Okay.
And needless to say, I'm really ashamed to say, but then I didn't know about any denomination back then.
Oh, yeah, because being in Japan, you didn't even know that there were separate denominations.
I didn't even know anything, no. But then I was told at church to go, and then the first day I went was before the Easter, so they were preparing for the welcoming all these people to, become a Christian. And then this lady, the bishop, not the bishop, but the priest, told me that if I'm interested, I can start attending the Bible class. And that was the time that I, really started to getting into my own study too. And then I went through the baptism on that church. And then after 1 and 2 years, as my experience of out-of-body experience progressed, I've experienced a lot of, so to speak, Catholic point of kind of experience. So on my birthday, my birthday, I was taken into the mystical realm where I met Pope Francis. And the Pope Francis, on my birthday night, he gave me the, okay, you have to help me.
The monstrance?
Yes, that's the one. He gave me beautiful monstrance. And then...
and the monstrance, just for our listeners, in the Catholic faith, is what holds the body and blood of Christ in the form of the bread after it is consecrated, that Catholics will often go to adoration. When in the Catholic Church, the bread will be placed inside a monstrance to preserve it, and people will be able to then be in the presence of the Lord.
Yeah, so I was given that in the mystical realm, and when I came back, I immediately emailed you about my experience, and actually you're the one told me that, well, I guess it's time for you to become a Catholic. So I went through that ceremony again on the coming Easter, and I was confirmed.
Yeah, and then you had mentioned to me that things dramatically changed after your confirmation with your mystical life.
Yes, because I started to, well, first of all, rosary is big, huge part of my life, prayer life. I had a lot of experience in regards to the rosary. I'm honored that I had experience with Jesus Christ and Blessed Mother. And so that started when I was confirmed as Catholic.
So you started seeing the Blessed Mother and our Lord a lot more frequently. And didn't you also get drawn into some spiritual warfare and working with souls in various purgatories?
Yeah. Well, first I was really, a lot of things that I experienced was, I would say, heavenly realms. I was taken in so many times, and it was really comforting experiences. As the journey goes on, then I was taken into the lower realms as well.
Right.
And then that started, and then you remember, because every time I had that experience, I would email you, and I'd ask you why, why? So that was quite, change from upper to the lower.
Yes.
Then as it progressed, then I was taking, I started to assist in these souls that it's stuck in the purgatory realms, and then there are so many realms, but each time that I experienced was very different, so I can't really pinpoint I can't really say, but yes, that's what it began.
Yes, and so your journey continued into from what I'm just going to share my part of it, which was that Mari just had some really, really profound visions and really holy experiences, and then was also being called into work, which is what most of us are also, asked to do, and that goes back to what I always say, which is creation continues to create, and that we are asked to give back to creation that which creation gives to us. And so we learn early on that as we receive from higher realms to assist us in our journey, we also need to assist those who are in other stages in their journey who need our help. And that's how we have that eternal exchange. that continues throughout, the spheres and throughout the universe.
Yeah.
And so, one question I think that would be interesting to our listeners is, so what was your life like before, first of all, before all this happened, but also I think, what was it, did you just always have certain types of out-of-body experience, or was there a point where that began, and was there any kind of clue as to what triggered that change?
Well, actually, my life wasn't that organized at that time. I would say I was a very lost soul.
Mm-hmm. Like all of us.
I think it was the hardest time in my life in regards to my marriage, and my work, and with my raising my child, and it was all just so much was going on. And it wasn't really easy route, and it will never be an easy route, easy journey. Because when these things happen, what happens is you're going to be taken into this space where you really have to face to true yourself, so to speak.
Yeah, very much.
You're gonna be required to look up on yourself. And lots of times I had to spend a time for self-reflection. And I don't know how many times I really cry, even as soon as I wake up from my experience. Sometimes I'm taken into those times where I did very wrong. I had to amend these things, a couple of things, awfully wrong things that I've done.
Yeah.
And this wasn't the finish. This was really a beginning. So I don't know if you remember or not, but then every time I hit that moment, I would cry and call you. And then you're like, and then you would say, okay, so what happened now? So
I'm sorry.
You know what it went through, because it was so much, and you feel kind of like shitty all the time. I'm sorry for my language. That's how it was, and it is. On my part, when I assist lost souls, for instance, when the time comes, I was taken into those places. But then, interestingly, if I'm not in the stage of my peace, which is if I'm not my mind is not clean enough, so to speak, like filled with the daily lives, because I work full time.
Yeah.
So all these things happen in a daily life. So if I forget, or if I neglect my prayer time, reflection time, if I'm too much into this world, then I'm unable to fly when I'm taken into these places. So you can tell my soul is heavy.
Right.
So that is the sign and warning. Over the years, I got so many warnings. So it's not, I don't even know how many times. But so it really they require you to work on your end. And it will be required, when this journey begins. And then I confirmed that with your book, because I've read your series of the books as you published one by one. And I think it was the mystical, what was the initiation?
The mystical captive, the mystical Jesus.
The flower.
Oh, that one's got a longer title.
The mystical rose.
Yeah.
I mean, you lay out the stages, how the souls would proceed. And that was really interestingly, that's how I exactly went through.
Yeah, and I remember too, we went through a long period together where it started out with I was just being taken randomly to go to your home.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would have these really extensive journeys, and we would go through the whole house and clean it up.
Yes.
And
remember when I moved to the new home, you know, there were lost girls in my home that I witnessed.
Yeah,
that I met.
yeah. Remember, I had told you.
Yeah.
I'd gone there, and I was like, there were all these kids there, and I was wondering why. And then we looked up together. We did some research on the property.
Yeah.
And found out that it used to be an orphanage.
Right. Right.
And you were able to proceed with helping the souls that were still stuck there to cross over. And I remember one particular case, you gave a rosary to a young girl.
Yes.
And
she was standing in my stairs at home.
Yes.
With that dirty clothes. It really wasn't taken care of.
Yeah.
And we tried to find out her name. Remember, we prayed together so hard, and then I got the name. You got the first letter. And then we pray, and then as we, go along, next time I saw her she was just completely different demeanor with the cleaner clothes.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was being purified. And I remember, too, that as we were going through this process, I would be sent in to literally write the liturgies of the Catholic Church on the walls of your house.
Yes. And then I remember. And then I would go out the next day in my out-of-body travel. When I get out my body, I would go to the stairs and I see the clean, like shiny stairs with a lot of statue of the Catholic saint, which is not in my physical home. It's not like that. But after you got experience, and I was given that, honor to see what your work has done to my home.
Well, what we had done when I was taken there, because it wasn't just me, it was other spirits who had taken me. We had, we wrote the liturgies on the walls, and we set up altars everywhere. I remember that. Yeah, it was a pretty neat experience, but it was really neat to see how it actually then manifested.
Thank you. But then, I'll tell you, when I prayed at home, I always begin with the prayer that it said, let all these holy prayer on the wall come alive and then fill my house.
Wow.
That's what I say all the time.
Wow.
Ever since.
I've never heard that prayer.
Yeah, ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you said that before this started happening, you weren't in the greatest of places. Was there a turning point, or was there just like a moment where you were like, God, I need some help, and then you had this vision where you were getting the adjustment in your 7th chakra?
Yeah, so I never prayed before. You have to remember my background, because really prayer, it's never been my, custom or the part of it. But that time, because I was so miserable stage myself, and then these, weird things was happening around me, and then so I pray that whomever out there, this is how I prayed, whomever out there, I need help. I need you to send me someone who can teach me what's going on, because if you don't, I'm going crazy. Because this was complete, really, it was the step before the insanity that I about to become, because my life was really messed with all this, wrongdoing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so then that's when it really began. Not short after that, I was being, surgery was performed on my 7th chakra. That was you.
Yeah.
And then, that's began. So I believe you were sent to me.
Well, and I believe you were sent to me, too. So it kind of works for both of us, huh?
Yeah. I'm really, really honored to meet you in this realm.
Yeah, it's really been, it's been a really amazing gift that God has given both of us, I think. When you think that, you were born in Japan and I was born in, where was I born? California. Yeah, I was born in California, but, I grew up in Ohio, and we end up becoming close friends and meeting somehow, through all these interesting experiences.
Yeah, it's really, we can't really, we never know how God utilizes each other and how God works in His way, in a miracle.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Is there anything, we're coming on the end of our show here, Is there anything you would want to share with anyone who's listening to give them a little encouragement or just guidance from the journey that you've had as to what you would suggest to them?
Well, what I see is a lot of the posting that it's how can I achieve, out-of-body travel, astral projection. I just want to say that's really not your goal to achieve. It's going to be a part of your process. So once you, first I would really recommend from begin from studying. Your book is available. The unique point of your mission here is that none of the other authors that's writes on the out-of-body or the astral subject is not going to teach you about how your spiritual develops,
the spiritual development that's involved.
Yes, and then it's spiritual education. Your book talks about it, and then that's really, really the core of the beginning of your journey. The out-of-body travel it's just a tool.
Yeah, very well said.
So, don't worry about having it or not having it. It's better that you start with the book, that it's, read a book, study your book, start the inner reflection, meditation. Back then I meditated a lot as well. So do these things, and then as the time goes by, when you're ready, trust God, because God knows when you're ready,
Yeah.
This timing might not be as you like, but God knows the best.
That's true, and sometimes the gifts are distributed differently to different people because of their various
We're all different.
Constitutions,
Yeah. But it's a key word is a reflection and the purification process that has to begin.
Yeah, because a lot doesn't. Yeah, that's very true. In the fact that the most activity begins when we actually begin with purifying the soul.
Yeah,
and that's the hard work. That's the hard work of
it. So it's going to be hard work. It's never going to be easy. It's not going to be easy things, and you're going to cry. You're going to be discouraged. But trust God, because He knows who you are, and He will take you through the journey if you really open it with the humility, And
the patience, too. I think one of the things I hear a lot, I think people are looking for a quick out-of-body experience. This is a real journey. It's not, some people, it comes to them quickly, but that's pretty rare. And, the reality is that it continues to evolve. So, the hard work continues for me now as it does for you.
Yeah. I struggle every day.
And so, that's what we find. And so it's important to realize that. And so we recommend a lot of the prayer, the meditation, the self-reflection, and recognizing that there is a lot of study involved, ironically, not just of my own books, but of many of the ancient sacred texts. But, I guess we're running out of time in this episode, so thank you so much, Mari, for telling us your story. This is great.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure, and so you can learn more about all this stuff at outofbodytravel.org, which is our main website. You go to Out of Body Books, and you can download any of our books for free. For those who are just beginning, we recommend that you start with Come to Wisdom's Door and the Mysteries of the Redemption, which is, ironically, the Mysteries of the Redemption is the one that Mari started with as well, and many of our readers who have become avid travelers. So, be open to the work, and know that it is going to take time and patience, but if you're supposed to get there, you will. So thank you so much and have a great day.